Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 17 of Fitness and Money, Maximizing Your Health and Wealth. Today we're going to be doing the second exercise in our series on legs, and that's going to be sumo squats. Now, last episode we did regular squats. Some of the same ideas and some of the same contingencies are going to apply to sumo squats. We're going to want to keep our back very, very rigid as we go up and down. We're going to want to keep our legs parallel to the floor, and we're not going to want to lock out our knees. Now, some people might say when they look at this exercise, well, isn't this kind of the same one that we did before? We're just holding the weight in a different position. And the answer to that is kind of no, because when you look at our feet position and the fact that we're holding the weight in a different place, you're going to feel it in a different area. You're going to feel it in your hamstrings, and you're going to feel it in your glutes, which is going to be kind of different than the episode previous where you're trying to get more frontal thigh/quadricep involvement. So let's get into those sumo squats right now. We're going to move this back, and again, we're going to start right here. The only difference being this time we are going to move. We're going to take this and we're going to move our legs out. So no longer are we in parallel with our shoulders. Our leg stance is way wider than shoulders. And secondly, we're going to point our toes and our feet outward so that we can feel the muscle that we want to work where we want to work it. Now, here's the big difference. Before, we started with our regular squats last episode, and we kept the weight right here. So what we're going to do with this exercise is we're going to keep the weight down here. And you might say, well, that doesn't make any difference. You're just going from here to here. In combination of doing this, as well as your feet wider, your legs wider, your toes pointed, it's going to make all the difference. So I'm going to do it incorrectly first, and then I'm going to do it correctly. And like I said, it's going to be all the same stuff that people are doing incorrectly. So incorrectly, it would be going forward, locking the knees, going forward, locking the knees. We absolutely don't want to do that. You're going to injure your lower back. There's no question about it if you do those, especially with heavy weight. So let's do them correctly. And again, keep focus on my back and how I want to keep it rigid. Focus on my legs in that I'm never going to lock my knees out. Those are the things that you absolutely want to make sure. And of course, the other thing is going down parallel, get your legs parallel to the floor. I don't believe you need to go all the way down. Doing it parallel is good enough. So I will do 4 repetitions correctly, and then we'll start talking about our financial tip of the day. Okay, so we're going to start right here, and we're going to go down and back up. We're going to go down and back up. We're going to go down, back up, and down and back up. Okay. So what you're going to find, is that when you do exercises correctly, you're going to use a lot less weight. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm going to tell you that, and a lot of people are going to disagree with this. Your muscles don't know whether you're using a 20-pound dumbbell or a 60-pound dumbbell. Yes, each person individually may be stronger or not as strong as the other, and that may mandate them using a higher poundage weight. It's going to be individualistic. But my point isn't that. My point is that no matter what weight you're using, if you do the exercise correctly with the proper amount of form to do it correctly, you're going to get results quicker. As long as your muscle is getting properly fatigued by not using other stabilizer muscles, and you're actually working the muscle that you're supposed to be working, you're going to get there much quicker. I'm going to say, the old analogy of work smarter, not harder. We're all about that. We're all about working smarter and not working harder. We want to get in and out. We want to do the exercises correctly. And, it's kind of the same thing with wealth building. You're not going to build wealth in a week, 2 weeks, 6 months. It's just not going to happen. You've got to understand the principles of wealth building and financial fitness, and you have to understand the principles of proper weightlifting and exercise technique. Once you can do that for both of those categories, you will get to your end result quicker. There's no question about it. All right, so let's get into today's financial topic, which is don't panic, think long term, don't hit the sell button because of what is going on in the world or at home. And when I say at home, I mean on our shores. Don't hit the panic button. Don't sell. You'll regret it. I've done it a couple of times in my investing career, and both times I wished I hadn't, because sure enough, those stocks or mutual funds that I hit the sell button when things were spiraling down, sure enough, they came back. And guess what? I either missed the boat on those great companies and mutual funds, or I had to buy them back at a higher price. Now, that totally defeats the buy low, sell high. That is what we want to do. That's how you make money. You buy low, sell high. And remember that analogy that I had given everybody about going into a store and looking at your favorite thing that you want, and it's selling for retail price, and you're like, oh, I really want that, but I don't want to pay retail price. And then 3 weeks later, you go in there and it's selling for 20% off or 30% off. Now, of course, you're like, I want that. I'm going to pay 30%. I'm getting a deal. I'm going to pay 30% off what was originally a retail price for that article of clothing or whatever it might be. It's the same way with investing. When you dollar cost average, you are buying mutual funds and stocks on sale. Now, short term, that's going to get dicey. Long term, however, you will absolutely come out ahead. Now, if the fundamentals have changed on a mutual fund or a stock, if a fund manager leaves, or if they change the objective of the mutual fund, or if something happens to a specific stock that you own that fundamentally changes the company or the mutual fund, that's a different story. And we will talk about that in a future episode. So here's the headwinds that are currently going on right now that are going to want to make some of us panic, hit the sell button. I highly urge not to do that. One is the debt ceiling. So not getting into politics, Republicans and Democrats have to appeal to their constituents, and everything is about perception. Nobody wants to give in. Nobody wants to be looked at as the weaker party. So they will take the debt ceiling, the current debt ceiling issue probably right down to the bitter end, but the debt ceiling always seems to get raised. It's just a matter of how much choppiness we have to go through before they agree to raise the debt limit. And again, the reason why that causes a lot of uncertainty in the market, and the market hates uncertainty more than anything else, is because if a debt ceiling is not, if they do not increase the debt ceiling, that's going to mean the government cannot pay their obligations. So the obligations that they have, number one, is to, they need to fund the government. Number two, they need to pay out Social Security, payroll, things like that. Those are the obvious things that would happen. There would also be foreign companies and foreign countries that would look at our debt and our bonds differently. So that's the big thing with the debt ceiling limit going on. The other thing, of course, which is kind of fallen off of the headlines, is the war with Russia and Ukraine. And it's not a conflict, it's definitely a war. It seems like it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody really taking any real strong foothold, but it's a big uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. So that would be number two. And number three is recession. Recession's a really, really scary word. Now, technically, the definition of a recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, gross domestic product. So when you have 2 negative quarters, technically that's a recession, but that whole meaning has kind of been modified a little bit. They have things now which people believe we're in rolling recessions, which means some industries are going through recession, some are not. You know, people talk about hard landings, which means that the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates so high that when it ripples through the economy, it's going to hurt the consumer so much that they're going to stop spending and we're going to go into a recession. The soft landing camp believes the consumer is still strong, and even as interest rates have risen and they're getting very, very close to stopping that whole effort of raising interest rates, they may have already reached it. You know, will the consumer, you and I, be resilient enough to make it through and cause a softer landing, and maybe we avert, you know, a significant recession? Maybe it's a mild recession instead of a deep recession. These are all things that we don't know. And again, it's the unknowns in the stock market that really create, you know, the ups and downs, the choppiness, and make us think, oh, got to hit the panic button, got to hit the sell button. But in reality, if we have a long-term perspective, I don't want to say it's just noise, but if we have a long-term perspective, we know that stock markets, the vast majority of the time, go up. And when time is on our side with investing, things usually work out pretty well. So that's where I'm going to leave it for the financial section. I did want to talk quickly about one more thing. Last week we talked about fruits and vasodilation and nitric oxide and what it does for the body, how it's beneficial for the body. I told you that I would introduce a vegetable, and that vegetable is beets. Now, a lot of people are probably grimacing right now because beets are one of those things that you either have acquired a taste for or you haven't. There's no middle ground. You're either going to eat beets or you're not going to eat beets. Beets are probably the number one best nitric oxide content vegetable. If not number one, they're very, very high up there. So again, vasodilation, nitric oxide, beets will be heart healthy. Beets will help lower your blood pressure, and it's just an overall good fitness and health related food. If you want to think of an example where beets would come in to be very, very healthy, let's think about a clogged drain. So think of a clogged drain as your circulatory system, and you're trying to rush a lot of water through the drain, and it's backing up on you. Think of that in the same way your blood circulates through your system and your vessels and whatnot. Once you clean that drain out, you're going to be able to get all of that rushing water more efficiently down that drain and throughout the system. It's the same thing with your body. You're going to be able to get the blood circulating, which is just going to be better for heart health, brain health. Circulation is always great for people who happen to have issues with fluid retention, whether that basically edema, which is fluid that can collect in your feet and your ankles and your calves, and causing them to swell because gravity pushes the fluid down, and some people have to wear compression stockings and things like that. So all I'm saying is beets are a great food. If you don't like beets, you can go to your local health food store, or you can go to a drugstore and you can get beets in capsule form. Obviously, it's probably going to be more expensive than just eating beets. You can eat them raw. You can go to the grocery store and buy, beets. It's a bulb with a root, and you can buy those, and you can fix it a lot of different ways. Raw, you can put it in a salad. You can probably go on Pinterest and find out 1,000 different ways of doing beets. Or if you've got an affinity for the taste, or you've gotten used to it like I have, I just eat them out of the can. I do it every day, and that's just me. But the point is, it's a great food for circulation, high in nitric oxide. It's a vasodilator. It's just good for your overall health. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Next episode, we're going to talk about lunges. When we start doing lunges, I'm going to actually recommend to people that have not done them before to not use any weight, because there's going to be some balance issues that are going to get created, and we want to make sure that we're going to do them in such a way that we're going to try to minimize the balance issues. But just the way the movement is, when I do it, you'll see what I'm talking about with balance issues. And then we'll move on to calf raises, and that's basically going to be the last exercise we're going to do as far as body parts, so to speak. We'll get into abdomen, and we'll do some of the best exercises for your abdomen and your obliques, which people have issues with, which is the love handles. Those are your obliques. So we're getting close. We're getting close to putting the routines together. And as we get closer, I'm going to ask you to keep thinking about how many days a week you want to work out, because that's going to dictate the number of exercises that I'm going to suggest. And we'll just take it from there. So hope you have a great day. And until next time, we'll see you. Thanks.